Hello, everybody. Good to see y'all. Good to see y'all tonight. Hey, Brat. All right. You are number one. Yes, girl. Good evening, PG. Much love. God bless. Prayers for Summer Moon, Utah Wales. Love and prayers for Miss Norway and prayers to everyone in the chat. Hey, girl. God bless. That is beautiful. Number one. All right. Hey, Florida girl, you number two in here. Number two. Hello, PG. Hello to you, girl. Good to see you. She's the number one. She's like, here, move over, Brat. She number one. Right? Hey, Australia, you number three, girl. You number three. PG, much love to you, girlfriend. You know it. God bless. And Linda, all right, Linda is number four tonight. APG, much love to you, girl. Much love to you. Good to see everybody in here. You guys gotta excuse me. I've got a cold. I don't know where I got it, but I do have it. All right. I don't know where I picked it up at. Thank God it's not too bad. Not too bad. It could be worse. Right? It could be worse. All right, let me get down through here. The legendary, how you doing tonight, sweetie? Good to see you. Hey, Purple Hearts for Summer. God bless, girl. I love that. Absolutely adorable. Much love, PG. Hey, girl, back at you. Much love to you. God bless. Let's get down through here. I'm moving. Lady Q, how you doing, sweetie? Wendy, good to see you, girl. I didn't miss you there. I saw you. Ah, legendary. Beautiful. Hey, Pam, I see you, girl. Hey, you try and hide up in here? I seen you. Let's see. Hey, my three girls. Anna, how you guys doing? Spread love. How you doing, sweetie? There's Nene. Hello. Good to see you in here. Suzanne, I see you, girl. Riding solo. There you are. Let's see. Oh, Zelda, how you doing, sweetie? Good to see you. Member for 23 months. All right. Justice for Summer. Amen. Absolutely. And it will come. Hey, Tropicana, how you doing, sweetie? Hello, beautiful. PG, hello, beautiful. Hi, Mon's chat. God bless you all. Purple Hearts, prayers for Summer. Hey, girl, much love. I appreciate that. God bless. Hey, Ruby Rainmaker, there you are. Hey, 63, how you doing? And Caroline, how you doing, sweetie? Good to see you in here. Ruby says, hello, everybody. Hello. All right, you guys. Tonight, I want to talk about, man, has anybody else seen the cray stuff that Don be posting out on his Facebook? Whoa. I'm like, really? You gotta be kidding me. Couldn't believe it. Keep the prayers going up for the people in that flood. I seen on YouTube today that almost 100 people have, was on live during that. Almost 100 on live during that. There's still almost 100 missing. They've got a lot of people missing. And I also seen where they don't want to bring the news in there. Put a one in the chat if you find something weird about that. I mean, I find it a little suspicious. when you ain't wanting to bring the news people in. What exactly happened? What exactly happened? I'm hearing some stuff. I don't know if it's true or not, but just hearing some stuff. So I don't know. I don't know. But keep the prayers going up, because a whole lot of these that are unlived are children. They are, they're children 18 years and younger. And that's super sad. Super sad. I don't understand why these kids weren't taken to higher ground. If it was raining that hard, they should have been taken to higher ground. I don't know. Somebody in here was telling me last night that, that I guess freaking Texas is built in some type of sinkhole. Who in the hell builds a whole state in a sinkhole? Who does that? That's like building, building houses around a volcano, and just biding your time to see what happens. That's scary. That's scary stuff right there. Right? I don't know. I don't know if it's I haven't done no research, but that's what I'm hearing. So I don't know. And then I understood that they're saying that something about some dam that's close to the place or whatever. It didn't break. But it overflowed. Am I getting that right? Put a 1 in the chat if you know. That's why I wish Benny was still out here. I wish Benny was still out here, because he could pop on with in his floaties, in his little floaties, and give us an insight on what's going on down there. But he ain't out here no more. And but that's scary. That's scary. I hope Benny's okay. I hope he's okay too, But wow, it's so sad. It's so sad to see, these children's pictures popping up. It's so sad. You're seeing a lot of the families coming out talking. It's so sad that, we're hearing that, that something could have broke, right, and caused all of this. You're hearing a lot of stuff. You don't know what to believe and what not to believe. I don't know, you guys, but I heard with my own ears. I heard them ask the news reporters not to be in there. They don't want the news reporters getting no pictures or anything like that of what's going on in there. And I was like, what? This don't sound good, right? When they're trying to privatize everything, it sounds like, something's going on. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion, I don't know. I guess they're asking people not to come in there, Michelle. They're asking people to stay out of the area, like, the law enforcement and the officials that run Texas, what, as Candace would say, the higher uppers, those were all the people on the news. I seen them. They were all on the news, and they were, basically saying, don't come in there. Don't, because I was wanting to see, how many more they found, if they found them safe, and, and if they're okay, and, you know, what can we, the people, do to help this situation, is there any GoFundMe's up yet? Is there anything that we can do, to help somehow, make things better for these people? And, these families and so forth that's going through so much right now. And that's basically, what I was checking into. And I seen, as I said, I seen all of these, officials and law enforcement, um, Texas law enforcement on the news and talking about, asking the news people, not to be coming around, not to be, trying to get photos and all these things, to, that they would update them with photos. If, the pictures that they take, they'll share. That don't sound right, because, at that point, it's to their discretion what they want to share, what they don't, right? I mean, what I'm saying is, you know, I don't know. Um, I don't know, you guys. I just don't have a lot of trust. I don't have a lot of trust, you know, in anything anymore, to be honest. I don't have when it comes to humans, I don't have a lot of trust in humans. And especially when it sounds like, and they might be in there trying to hide or cover up, how truly devastating it really is. Um and what caused it, you know. So I don't know, you know, just saying. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion. And this is America, I'm not trying to make it political, at all. This is a tragedy. There's nothing political about it. It's a real heartbreaking tragedy, and it's hard. It's hard on, all the people who lost loved ones, but it's hard on the rest of the country. Actually, it's hard on the whole world, because the whole world has hearts, right? Every human has a heart. And when you hear that people were destroyed in a multitude like this, you know it's heartbreaking. I mean, they done nothing. They're, these are innocent people who, you know for some reason, something went wrong, that, that a whole lot of people were destroyed before we even knew it. They were destroyed. And I think there could be more done about things like this to prevent it. Um, just my opinion. And then when, our news stations and everything ain't welcome to be in there, and, to be in there and reporting back to everyone what truly's going on, well, that bothers me too. You know, that bothers me. I mean, I thought this is America, free country, freedom of the press, right? You ain't got nothing to hide. Why do you want to keep these people on the outside instead of letting them in? Just saying. Just saying. It's a horrible tragedy. 30 feet, that's what I'm saying. No water should end up 30 feet in the air. No state should be under 30 feet of water. Something's got to be wrong if you got a state under, sitting under 30 feet of water. something had, I mean, I don't, because I know the Bible says that, God put a rainbow. God put a rainbow in the sky to remind yourself, not to flood the earth again. Right? That's what the big rainbow's for. To remind God not to flood the earth no more. And, I don't think 30 feet of water is going to, drop down in a matter of, I mean, it would probably have to rain. I mean, it had to rain 40 days and 40 nights, right? To get the boat up in the air, right? It rained on the earth 40 days and 40 nights in order to get the boat up in the air. The ark. How does 30 feet worth of water drop over the 4th of July weekend? That don't sound right to me. Put a 1 in the chat if that don't sound right to you. That's an awful lot of water. Something had to something had to break or overflow that was already full of water. I mean, that's the only thing that I could think of. Yeah, a lot of people agreeing with me. It rained an hour straight. It could pour the rain. I mean, it could pour the rain all day long, and it don't build up to 30 feet of water. Man, I've seen it pour rain. For 2 or 3 days straight, right? You didn't think it was going to stop. It just pour rain, and pour rain. And you're like, is this rain ever going to stop? And it might flood, it might flood out some bridges. It might flood out, some areas, it might make it unsafe to travel and so forth and so on. But, it didn't build up to 30 feet of water. That's just really weird. I mean, was the sewage not working properly? Was the sewage not able to handle, the rain, the multitude of rain that was coming down? What the heck was going on there? Oh, Tropicana. Yeah. They're trying to say, I heard them say that that's not true, Tropicana. I heard that the news, not the news, on the news, I heard the officials, those officials saying that it didn't break, that it didn't break. So, did it or did it not? And then they told the news people they don't want them in there. They don't want them flying no drones or anything in there. They warned them, stay out, Now they're like, like roping it off, right? They're like roping it off. And that's weird. That's suspicious. Just saying. Right. That's it sounds like that they're not equipped. They're not equipped to handle a lot of things, It sounds like their sewer system isn't equipped to, handle that type of rainfall. It sounds to me like, the dams, ain't large enough. They overflow or something. something's going on. Something's going on. Yeah. You know, I don't know what it is, but, you know, will we ever know? Will we ever know the truth? Yes or no? What do you guys think? Yes or no? You think we'll ever know the truth? I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I think not. Sometimes I think we won't. Hey, Ernie, there you are. I'm bringing you up. How you doing, Ernie?
Hey girl, what's up? How you doing?
Not much. What's up with you?
Well, just living life and one investigation after another investigation and one case after another. That's about it. What about
Yeah, I
you? I
hear
heard
you.
you're pretty busy these days.
Yeah, I have been staying busy. That's for sure. Personal life and out here oh, so many kids, so many missing kids. Ernie, we got Jack and Lily, we got Sebastian, we got Summer, we got Michael Vaughn. You know,
Mhm.
every time we turn around, another kid, is missing. We had that little Eli Vu, which they were. Thank God he was found, but he was found unalived. Thank goodness, that they're dealing with the parents on all of that right now. And,
Oh yeah.
we had little Quentin Simon and, just, so many from the past, so many, still coming forth and it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, that this type of evil exists out here, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, it's hard to believe it does, but the fact of the matter is it does exist, and that's
Right.
for
And
the love of me, I don't understand it. I never will.
no,
I don't see how somebody could take a child and do the things they do to the kids. I just don't. For me, you know, it's just not there. It's not there for me. I tell you, it's wild.
do there you can't we won't ever be able to comprehend why humans could how humans could be so evil like that. We won't ever comprehend it because you have to be like them to understand them, and we're just not like them, and we thank God for that. We thank God for that. But it doesn't stop you from you know wanting or trying to get inside of these people's heads to see what makes them tick, right?
Exactly. You know, I'm hoping that the Summer Wells case. I'm hoping that the TBI will be solving it here soon.
Right,
I've heard, like I said, I told everybody this on other panels. I've heard it's going to be in October, before October, that it will be done. I don't know. At least arrest somebody. I think they have enough to arrest. I mean, you know, because once you start arresting people, that's when things are going to fall apart.
right. Yeah. It, um, you have to arrest someone in order to get that domino effect. You know,
Exactly.
once as you said, once you get one of them that is involved in it, or you highly suspect, and you interrogate that one, then that one is going to, their hands are going to start shaking, their knees are going to start knocking, and their teeth are going to start shattering, and they're going to start talking, and they're going to give names because they're scared, and they're going to see, you know, to save their own ass. They're going to see that open door of immunity, immunity coming, and they're going to go through it and give everybody else up.
The thing about it is, once the first arrest is made, the people will band together again. the rattling the cages will begin again. And then that's when these leads will pop out. There'll be new leads. There'll be people talking because they'll know once they're hit with something and then they say, hey, you're facing this. You see, now it ain't doing to another person, it's doing to you. And once they having it doing it to them and they know it's going to happen to them, guess what, PG? That's when they start talking. That's
Mm.
when they start doing whatever they can do. And that's when everything crumbles.
Oh, oh, you're right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I really believe, you know, I think personally myself, you know, I don't think that we're going to see Dawn or Candace or Grandis or possibly, possibly not even, you know, um Andy or Jody Sue, cracking in all of this. I think if we um
Yeah, and let me say this too. Anna Orlando in chat, she's talking about the cargo boxes that goes across the seas. That's why a lot of the tariff stuff and a lot of the watchers now are there. And the thing about that is that actually helps. It helps regulate it because they're searched. Things are searched now than never before. Than it ever was. In order to get into this country or get into another country now, look at the security stuff you have to go through now. Like, if you go down to Laredo, Texas right now, if you go down into Laredo, Texas, they beg. They're there and they're being picked up left and right, and illegal people are begging to be shipped, begging to be transported from there to New York or California. They're trying their best to get out of that. But the thing about it is, it's the same as children. It's the same as what they was doing with children. They can't do that no more. Those options are running so thin now. And a lot of it is, even though it's hid behind the media, it's hid behind what the real cause really is. Why do you think so many kids are being rescued now for? They've never before been had. Like 200 here, 100 there. There's so many people being busted and everything. Why? Why do you think it's happening now for? Because it's been tightened up on them. It's tightened up on them right now. There's nothing they can do to get out of it. So I think the Summer Wells case will be solved. I honestly do. And the people that I've been talking to that knows, then yeah, I'm saying, I'm hoping something's done before October. I'm saying, just saying.
I'm going to tell you, um people who are trying to get in right now, um down there at the Texas borders, they better know how to swim or bring their floaties, because boy, from my understanding, they're like 30 feet of water up in the air. Right?
Oh my God. So we was actually canceled out down there. Well, a lot of us got stuck. A lot of our guys got stuck down in that area and couldn't get out of the area for 2 or 3 days. And I think they're finally getting them out now. And yeah, there was a lot of damage done. And again, prayers for Texas, prayers for the flood victims. I always try to, let everyone know, if there's some kind of natural disaster or things going on, you always want to say prayers for those people because you never know when it could happen to you. And, that
You
was quick.
know, that I'm going to tell you, that don't sound so natural. I mean, I think me and you both have seen rain coming down pretty hard, flooding up certain areas and stuff, but we ain't ever seen it 30 feet high. That just don't sound natural. It sounds like, some systems were backed up or something wasn't right to allow all of that to go on.
So I'm
Um,
going to tell you what I heard about the Summer Wells case. I heard there were two individuals. I'm not going to say no names. They were into the certain things. I heard they came forward and gave out certain tips to the TBI, And the TBI looked into it and found that they were credible tips. Not that the people are credible, but the
Right.
tips themselves are credible. I think right now is why this big movement with TBI and the pretty much the new interest in the Summer Wells case is happening. I honestly believe that, because I honestly believe that the people one of them who were tipped got arrested. And I think that that's what's really going on. That's just my opinion. That's something I heard from the down low, but that's just, and I know the person that told me is the same person I talked to, and they were investigating the case. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, from my sources that's coming into me, it's telling me that Marlena Crawford and her brother and sister-in-law are some pretty good witnesses into all of this, but they were seeking the reward fund, and possibly they might get it. I hear she's saying she's going to, and I hear that a big factor in all of this has been Jimmy Long. And this is a guy that was real close to Ben Hill Road, real close to the grave diggers over there, real close, pretty close to, you know, um, the Don and Candace Wells. I mean, he knew, of all of these people, and really super good friends, with Chad Arnold, which is the same guy Candace was meeting up with on June 15th, 2021, down at Fred's house. And Chad's also helps dig graves, and Chad knows he's related to the Morlocks through his wife, which are the grave diggers. So, and I hear Jimmy Long has been putting out some really valuable information to law enforcement's ears, hoping to get a piece of that reward fund as well. And he may get it. I don't know. So, you got some really, like you said, these people aren't credible, but the information is that they're giving. And, and it's all adding up to June 15th, 2021, after the video of Summer on the milk jugs.
Yep. So, again, we can only, pray and hope for the best, but we all know in our hearts, when you have the family that she had, it's just, I mean, I guarantee you, when this all comes out, whether people like it or not, I'm still saying the parents are involved.
In my opinion, when it comes to Summer's case, yes, I believe Don and Candace Wells are absolutely guilty as hell. And that's my opinion. This is America. I'm allowed to have that. And I'm going to keep it. With everything, that I know and I have researched, and all the work that I've put into this case, it's
Here's the thing, and I know there's certain people watching right now.
100%.
I know that there's one agent right now, for a fact, that watches your channel all the time. I know that for a fact. And I'm going to say this right now. If you go after any one of these missing kids, if you look at any other case that's ever been, and you interview them and talk to the parents, they never, ever, ever use the term was. Was is past tense. Was is no longer.
Right.
You will never see a family.
No.
And you all can take this down for what it's worth. You will never see a family or parents use that word was.
Even
Don and Candace both use that word religiously when it comes to Summer Wells.
Yeah.
Was.
Mm-hmm. That's true. like you said, you take a parent that's got a missing child and you go 5, 10, 15 years down the road with some of them, and you know what, you're right, they will be like, oh, my little girl loved going to the
Is
park.
that is that Don Wells? Is that Don Wells in the back chat?
And let me see, if he is, he's gone.
It's Don Wells in the back chat, I believe. I don't know.
Wow, yeah, I guess he is.
Yeah, that's Don Wells. So I'm going to say this right now to Don Wells. You know I'm telling the truth. You know I'm telling the truth. Your wife slipped up multiple times. That's exactly why you're here now. That's exactly why you're here now, because I just rattled your cage. PG has been rattling your cage, and me is just the extra topping for it. That's the simple ways. You have always referred to Summer in this terms as was. You cannot explain why you did that. It's as simple as that.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
That's a fact.
I
Candace and Don, and I don't see, well, actually, I've talked to them about this, but uh, they know that. Any other case in history you ever watch, you see that. That's as simple as that. That's why he's in the backstage right now doing what he's doing. He's been following. He's been look. I've already known because I've already got messages and stuff talking about him. I don't care the deal about him. I know what's up with him. I know what the deal is with him. I think he'll be the first one arrested. I honestly believe that.
mm, I think Candace will. I think Candace will be the first one arrested myself.
You think
Um,
Candace will?
either her.
Actually, you may be right on that, because if Candace is arrested, they know she's the weaker link, and they know then that they'll have them separated for interrogation purposes, and they'll use their 72 hours. Here's the thing: they don't have to arrest her; they can hold her for 72 hours and interrogate her, which might happen. They can
Yeah,
do that because they've
absolutely.
got enough reasonable suspicion to prove probable cause, anyways. They've
Well,
got that. They got that because the thing about it is, she's one of the last people to see Summer, and before it happened. I mean, so that's the thing. And when you're dealing with those two, again, everybody sees them for what the internet sees them for and what they know about it. Nobody knew who they were before they were famous and the internet and all this Dr. Phil stuff and all this. Before Summer went missing, you have to look who they were, because that's when it
nobody.
happened. That's what
Nobody.
happened.
They were nobodies. And the thing is, did you see just recently? Did you see just recently where Don and Candace come? Donald came running out, and he's like, uh, I just want everybody to know that Child Protective Services gave me and Candace both all of this clarification and this paperwork, and then he posted it up on Find Summer Wells on site over there, and he was showing it, just like flashing it right in, right out here in everybody's face and so forth and so on. Which, if you read the document, you can clearly understand that they didn't clear them of a damn thing.
Nobody's been
They
cleared.
just
But here's
said,
the thing.
they just
They may
said
be doing that. They may be doing that. Here's the thing too.
no.
TBI will work. Law enforcement will work with CPS all the time,
Basically,
and
what
they'll say, "Put it out there." Yeah, go ahead.
basically what on DCS was saying is, you know, we're done with you. We're done with you. You put in a petition. We've already got the two younger children safe, adopted out and safe from you. You know, we done, proved our point in court. We already, let you get away with avoiding prosecution to sign the kids over, and you did it, which is a admission of guilt right there. Anytime you sign your children over to avoid prosecution to the state, that's an admission of guilt. Actually, the judge needs nothing else. And so, therefore, they've already admitted their guilt by signing their children over to the state to avoid that prosecution for child, abuse, child endangerment, and all the shit they had against them.
Well, it was child neglect, wasn't it?
And gross child neglect,
Okay. Yes. Yes.
which is even worse. And so they signed the kids over, you know, to avoid that prosecution and everything. And and CPS adopted them out. They're adopted out now. They're safe. And then the older boy, he's aging out. He's old, big enough, and old enough to take care of himself. And to handle his own affairs. Children at his age, I think he's still a child at 16, but a lot of kids at his age end up getting emancipated, and become adults. They become adults in this world, and able to work and take care of themselves from then on, and a lot of kids do. A lot of kids do, especially kids that come from, that kind of background right there. But the point being is, as Don and Candace, it wasn't the paper they showed everybody, wasn't worth the freaking it wasn't worth the cost of the paper to print it on, to be honest with you. It meant nothing. It didn't mean shit. It's basically just saying we ain't going to spend no more of the taxpayers' money on you two, and just go away. Go away.
But here's the thing: when DCS, you said DCS, which Department of Children's Services, when they do that, they give out a letter showing, hey, this is found, that was found, and it's kind of like they kind of come back out with it, and they do your reply, they give that back out to you. I know that because I know people who's had that happen to them before, and they'll come out and say there was no findings or something like that. There's no findings. Notice it never said nothing like that. It kind of said that, like you said, we're done with you.
Right.
There are no more children. There are no more children. And here's the thing too. Say if DCS, which I know is working with law enforcement anyways, what if law enforcement said, hey, let's put this paper out there to them. Let's make them think they're in the clear, and that way it eases the tension off of them. That way they make a mistake. They could be doing that too. TBI is real tricky. When you get involved in this stuff, you have ICAC, you have TBI, and don't think that ICAC is not involved, because ICAC's always involved. ICAC is always involved, because they always search phones, they do all this and all that. And every lead that they had, every lead that they've done and they come up with, Don has failed miserably, and everything leads to what's actually on paper, which is with the child trafficking and all that, with the predators and all that, is look at the missing camera. The missing camera is missing. The camera happens to be right.
All the leads are leading right back to 110 Ben Hill Road, all the way up until recently. They're back on Ben Hill Road. I mean, they're
okay. Now,
anytime law enforcement's not leaving the area, then we know who they suspect. We know who the number one suspects are, and that's Don, Candace, and Grandis.
Right.
And but here's the thing, Ernie. You got to agree with me. You see how fast they was to bring those papers out here like they had something when they didn't. And I'll tell you what, if they passed those lie detectors tests, they would have had them papers out here too, right? Just like Fred Hill. Fred Hill posted his up, even though, it was inconclusive. He posted it up. He said, hey, here it is. It is what it is. But Donnie wasn't bringing theirs out. I'm going to tell you, if Don and Candace passed those lie detectors tests, just like those other papers, they'd have had them in your face.
Right. Is that Jody Sue in the back?
He keeps coming up, writing something, and then leaves.
Yeah, is that Jody Sue, or is that both of them?
I don't know if that was Jody Sue, or if it was Donald coming back.
So he's just coming in as different names. Okay. That right there shows you. I mean, what kind of parent who has a missing child is going to get on YouTube, unless they're getting on YouTube to either, for their daughter, for their child. Why would you get on here and try to, hurt the people or harm the people or do things that are against the people who are actually caring for your own daughter, you're caring for your own child, why would you get on? Why not help these people? Why not say, hey, I'll tell you why. It's because 100,000% Don and Candace is involved. They're involved in it. I don't give a damn what White Boy Radio comes up and he tries to protect them. White Boy Radio is a criminal himself. Think about that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You got that right. You got that right. Yeah. You know, um, you know, and my just my opinion, he's the same type of they're most humans are made out of dust, and dust they shall return, but you got a whole lot of them made out of crap too, and he's one of them. Just saying. That's my opinion. I'll keep it.
I understand that. And you have every right to your opinion. It's just what I don't understand is why is these YouTube creators, I understand that they make money off of it. I understand that. And here's the thing. I'm not against YouTubers making money, but when it comes to a missing child, a missing kid, and them sitting here knowing damn well that there's people out there who actually care and people who are actually trying their best to uncover something that's been covered up, and they see that, why do they go against the opposite of it and try to, spin it back around in another circle when everybody knows exactly what happened? You know what I'm saying?
Right?
That everybody knows that ain't what happened, and they're trying to say, oh, well, there's this people here. These people are good people. Hell no, they're no good people. There's nothing good about someone that says people like Don when he said she's worth a lot of gold, stuff like that. Who says that about a child? Think about that. Who says that stuff, PG? You
Any,
know,
I'm gonna tell
only
you,
predators do that. Only predators.
anyone that could, this again, my opinion, anyone that supports the Wells, anybody that is support those two people after what they have, the way they have acted, and the things they have done in their missing daughter's case, I'm going to tell you what. If someone tells me that these two people right there are good people or whatever, all you're telling me is that you're the same piece of shit that they are. And I don't want no more. You're telling me a way more about yourself than you'll ever tell me about them evil bastards. You're telling me you're evil too. Because the only way that you can support evil is if you are evil. That's it. I've been in the hood long enough to know that evil supports evil and righteous supports righteous, and righteous does not support, what goes on in the hood. The righteous people, they lock down their doors, they lock down their windows, they, watch their back to their cars and, to and fro, and they do everything they can to stay safe in those areas where such evil exists. And, and the evil people are always, always taking up for evil. You know, this thug down here who is, hurting and destroying and doing super bad things, to other humans. The ones that you socialize with them and are like them will stand there in your face and say, oh, this dog's a good guy, as Ernie said. This guy, he's a good guy. People just taking the wrong way, making excuses and everything else. And like Ernie said, you know the truth. You know what an evil human being that person is. And the person telling you that, trying to build this person up that is evil, well, I'm going to tell you what, they just let you know they're evil too. So don't
let me ask you a question.
both.
What's your opinion on this? Of course, I don't hear of it no more. But Jason Jensen coming in and saying, let's not look at the parents no more. Obviously, they're okay. They passed this and that. Show me the proof. Show me the proof.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Exactly. I agree with you. You know what? we got to see, they were so eager to fly that paper out here, with DCS saying, we're just not spending no more taxpayers' money on your ass. Get on down the road. We're done. Get out of here. You're you know what you can do with your petition. Is pretty much what was said. And these kids, once children are adopted, that's forever homes right there, baby. There ain't nothing you can do about it. It's a family unit now, and it cannot be reversed, and it won't be reversed. Trust and believe that.
Well,
But
the most clever thing that Jason Jensen said was that he's not really familiar with how human trafficking works and how child predators are. Therefore, you cannot treat it like a simple case that he's used to working on. It's a total different crime. It's a total different thing. When he automatically said, I mean, he came out and said, "Oh, let's leave these parents alone. Let's go after the real." Like literally trying to throw it off. But the thing about it is the statistics say that 92% that it is the parents. So you have to go by what statistics are. And in this case, they follow it right to the book, right to the book. Don and
amen.
Candace follow child trafficking and child predator stuff right to the T. The book, the camera, all that, everything. They follow it. So why can Jason Jensen say, "Oh, they took a lot of"? I still ain't have no proof of that. I don't see no proof of that anywhere. I don't see no proof of
Absolutely.
them passing anything.
That's right. That's right. And they'd have had it in your face if they did. They'd have had it in your face. And because they didn't. They didn't. That's my opinion. I will keep it. And I'm going to tell you something else. These are two people that did not want flyers. They didn't hand out any flyers. I mean, right from the word go, they weren't looking for their daughter. Why? In my opinion, they knew where she was. And right from the get, they were telling law enforcement where she wasn't. Well, you can't tell law enforcement where someone isn't unless you know where they are. And this is right from the get. They didn't want the flyers. They didn't want the billboards. They didn't want the reward fund once Don Wells figured out his ass couldn't get it. Um,
Bingo.
you
Bingo.
know,
That's another one. That's another one. They searched, they seek for it, and they try to do it undercover. They try to do it where nobody got out, but it got out. And when it got out, oh, no, 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 it was all to hell. But he did try it. Don Wells did try to do that. Yes, you're exactly right. He did. That
yes, he
is
did.
exactly right. Even the people, even the foundation was saying that. So,
Right.
but here's something else with Jason Jensen. I'm not saying nothing to shade to him or nothing, but from one detective to another detective, I'll say this about it. Any day, anytime you want to have a debate over this, over any of this, on anybody's panel, I am more than welcome to do that. That's all I want to say about him. But I think it was wrong for him to say that, even though him being on TV. And and to be honest with you, I think he already talked to a few people and they knew that his power and pull from the television would try to persuade people into not going after Don and Candace anymore. I think that he got a lot of his shit off White Boy Radio. I think a lot of the stuff did. But the fact of the matter is, PG, I was the one that brought up about the Knoxville stuff and the hotel stuff because I did the damn field interviews with the people in Knoxville hotels. So I know that Don did have Summer and Knoxville at one time. So I knew that. But all this sudden he brings this out and all the whole Knoxville things out. And then it's brought out that, hey, Ernie said that years ago. So you see what I'm saying, PG? This
Yeah.
idiot, he goes by what's already been put out there. He don't understand. He's like one of these fresh people. It's like the Summer Wells case, anyways. Every damn week there was a new face. It was like a soap opera. Somebody new was introduced. But the fact of
Well,
the matter is, if you look at it, most people, the original people in the Summer Wells case, they're dead. They're
you
dead.
know, you got your, you got these people who are seeking fame and not answers for the victim. You got, this particular person you're talking about. I know who you're talking about, and this particular human. I have to agree with you. He does not know Summer's case. He knows nothing about Summer's case. He has not done no research. He has not did his homework. He's out here blowing hot air that he knows nothing about. If you ask me, that's my opinion. I think he blowed out a whole lot of BS that holds no truth to it whatsoever. Um, you know, he's listening to the wrong people, and not, you know, and that shows he's lazy. That shows he's lazy, because, you know, I don't go listening to anybody. When I hear something, what I do is now I go seek the truth, and I find the truth, and then I come back, and I give the truth, right? I come back
Exactly.
and I say, listen, you know, this isn't the truth. This is BS, and that's just the way it is.
I
And
appreciate. Yes, you're exactly right, and I appreciate somebody finally saying that, because a lot of people overlook the fact that a lot of people try to put their own spin on it. You just said it exactly to the T. You didn't care. You said it right off it. You don't care whose feelings it hurts. You said it right. PG, I'm actually on operation right now, and I've got to get ready. So I wish you the best on this. I do. And like I said, I've always stood by everything you do, but here at 11:30 we're doing a case, and I've got to get ready for that. I do appreciate everything. Thank you all. Please, I mean, I do think a lot's going to be coming out, um, and everything is going to fall into place, I believe, with the Lord's, with the Lord's help and all. And I know it's been a while. It's been 3.5, almost. I mean, it's going on the years. The years are piling up on this. It's been 4 years and something. So, I think that things have come about. We thought, 2 years, 3 years would what it be, and now look, it's even expanded it. But look, everybody, there's new hope in it. I'm hoping and I'm praying that the TBI does do what they say, and they are, and I know they're legit because I've seen the other cases they've worked, and I understand that they don't just rest one or two; they try to get every single one of them that's involved at the same time, one big swoop, and you'll see it all over the news. And the sad thing about it is, you'll see the children as well, and you'll know more about what actually happens in this dark world, because these people are sick individuals. To me, I think they're demons, and I think something with the law should be done away with these people immediately. I don't
and
believe in housing them in a jail. I believe in doing away with them. Now, I've got to go, PG. Thank you for having me up. I appreciate all you guys. Be safe, and prayers, please. Thank you. I appreciate you.
you be safe too, man. Much love. You know, I have to agree. I have to agree there. You know, um, he's right. You know, these people like that cannot be, they cannot, you know, be rehabilitated. You know, people who do evil things to children, they just can't be rehabilitated. And you know, and there's no room in society for these type of people. No room in society for them. And you can't have, you know, people who ain't willing to put in the time to really, you know, learn about this child's case, and you know, every detail, and then, you know, and then um, speak upon it. And clearly, this particular human that Ernie was talking about was not, you know, he was not doing his homework. He was, you know, he was not, you know, for, in my opinion, he was not for Summer. He was not for the victim, you know. And that's the way it was from the beginning. You know, Don and Candace pretty much let people know that, you know, you're either for them or you're for Summer. You can't be for both. You know, like for instance, Michael Vaughn, Michael Vaughn's mom and dad. Michael, you know, if you're for Michael Vaughn, you're for the parents, and the parents want you to be for their son. They want you to be for them and their son, you know, and they would rather you be for their son than, you know, what I'm saying is, um, Michael Vaughn's mother, Brandy don't want you talking about her and showing pictures of her, and, you know, and sending up all this support and all these things for her. She wants you to do it for Michael. She wants you to do everything for Michael because this is her son. She loves her son. Her son's truly missing, needing to be found and brought home and justice served. And you know, she's doing it the right way. That's, that's a real mother with a missing child. And Don and Candace, that's not real people with a missing kid. Um, those are people. Those are number one damn suspects in their child's disappearance. That seems to be leading law enforcement right back at their door every time. They get a tip. It's going right back to Don and Candace. And if it's been going right back to their door for over 4 years, right? Over 4 years now, then they need to be a knock on that door, right? And they need to be taken downtown, as Ernie said, and interrogated the hell out of. They need to be, taken in and held and interrogated the hell out of. Because everything's coming back to them constantly. And and why these number one suspects are allowed to continue to try to bullshit society out here with their gas lighting and manipulation and all the shit that they've got away with for so many years, right? All the devil's old tricks, right up to the child got missing. They sit there and they gaslighted their own children. They gaslighted these 3 little boys. They brought some food home knowing how hungry those kids would be. And they would grab that food and run into the house, not caring where their sister's at. They seen her in the vehicle. Candace wanted to make sure they saw her in the vehicle. That's why she called them out to get the groceries. Instead of packing, the whole fucking 2 jugs of milk and 1 bag of shit in the house. I'm sure there wasn't much to pack in. We seen that place. Those kids wasn't called out to that vehicle because people needed help carrying what little bit those bitches got. They were called out to that vehicle so they could be gaslighted up, after seeing their sister. And they went back into that house, just assuming their sister was up, right? That she was up, that she was getting out of that vehicle. And they were so hungry, they just wanted to get into that food. They wanted to get back to their gaming and whatever they was doing in there. And they just assumed that mommy, grandma, and Summer was outside doing whatever, right? All the way up until Candace, hollers in the door, "What's your sister, boys?" And then walks back in. Where's your sister? Where's your sister that didn't ever come in? That didn't ever come in the door? But she gaslighted them up to believe that, Summer did. That's my opinion. And these boys being so scared, because these boys have lived a life of hell, right? They've lived a life of hell. They've lived in a place where, they were used and abused and neglected, and we had witnesses already tell us, that Candace struck out at them, right? She would strike out at them and so forth and so on. These children were scared. And when mommy said she sent the kid in the house, then they believe mommy did. And they don't know where the kid went, but now they don't want to get in trouble. So she probably went down the basement, Mom. Play with her stuff. She's probably in the basement. I mean, they would say she's anywhere just to get mommy off their back or so they don't get in trouble. And mommy ran down the basement, all happy with herself that she was able to gaslight them up the way she did. And make them feel like it was their fault. Their fault that Summer disappeared because they were supposed to be in charge of her, right? I hollered in this house for you to watch her. Now, where is she? Oh, wow. We don't know. And, now it's like, we should have paid attention. What we should have done It's too late to do. And now we're going to have to live with this, right? We're going to have to live with wishing we would have been paying attention and focused and and watching our little sister that mommy says she sat in the house and we didn't see because we were too busy, you know, being selfish and self-seeking and self-centered instead of paying attention. And now we wish we would have, but it's too late, right? And mommy was so proud of herself. She didn't care about, she didn't care about what those boys lived with, because she already put them through many years of hell, many years of anxiety, many years of freaking misery, right? And pain and everything else. And, and that right there, all she put these kids through showed that she didn't give a damn about them. And she wasn't about to give a damn when she's standing in that basement as well. Candace cares about nobody. My opinion, she's a heartless bitch. Now, that's my opinion. She's heartless. She destroyed 2 children over in Wisconsin. Neither one can live a normal life. One, because it got shuffled around, in the system so much that it damaged the child for life. The other one, well, medical reasons is why it will never be able to live properly again. And then we got one over in Arkansas that she walked away from. And, we had a witness, Lisa J, who clearly witnessed that, they took that baby away because, it was addicted to illegal substances, right? When Candace had it, she couldn't stay off the stuff long enough to have a healthy baby. And it was addicted to some, to illegal substances. So they swooped in and took it away. And, and she said she didn't care anyway because, because it was a different culture, according to Lisa J. And, and that's sad too. And then, she gets with old Dom Wells, right? She gets with old Dom Wells, who clearly, came out here and basically told everybody that, that he was loaning Candace out, right? That he was loaning her out, that, he gave her to some guy and the guy wasn't treating her right. So Don Wells, brought her back to his house. So that right there, what do you call that? What do you call that when, you loan somebody out to somebody and it sounds to me like, Don Wells, had some Johns that he was, loaning these women out to that lived at his home, him and Pam, these women that they brought in. Exactly, Rhonda. I didn't want to use that word, but that's the word that, describes what Don was wanting to be, right? Or portraying to be. And, well, we know, when you find that person, then you find, the ladies of the night, right? The ladies of the night. And it sounds like that, that, and then, we have witnesses that, was there at that particular house in Arkansas, which was one of them was Lisa J, who was there with her child. And, and she wasn't the only one there with children. There was other people there, homeless, girls and families and stuff with children as well. And all, and when law enforcement came in, they took all of these children out of there because all of these children were being essayed, right? And nobody was getting those kids back. Those kids, got took forever because, they were being allowed to be done like this. And, so Don and Pam, it sounds like they were running this operation, not only, for ladies of the night, but also, for little children as well. It sounds like they had a lot of creepy human beings that was into some really sick, disgusting stuff and was coming around. And then Candace goes back to Don because the one guy that he loaned her out to wasn't treating her good. And law enforcement comes in, crashes everything going on at Don and Pam's house. And Don takes Candace and gets the hell out of there, right? He takes her and he gets out of there and leaves Pam holding the bag with law enforcement and everything going down around that house. And him and Candace take off. And then they end up over in Tennessee, where Donwell seems to be still, running the same operations. You got Fred Hill says, hey, I think I saw Rose up on that hill, being a lady of the night type situation going on. And other women up there, that people could come up and and have a good time with. And so you have witnesses that and then you had Jody Sue saying, you go ask Andy what he was giving to Candace to sedate those little girls, not just Summer, but other little girls as well, so they could be touched. So you got up in Utah, you've got Mary and Don's wife talking about, Don Wells trying to sell the little boy, right? Trying to sell the little boy for that type of stuff. And you've got, over in Arkansas, you've got, these witnesses that this stuff's going on. And even out of Don Wells' own mouth about Candace, right? Giving Candace to some guy, loaning her out. And then, we go into Tennessee and we got the same scenario, right? The same thing going on there. And, there's a long history of it. 3 different states, a lot of different children used, abused, and, destroyed. And Candace going down in that basement, gaslighting those boys and putting those boys, minds, in a state of no rest, didn't bother her at all. Because, Candace isn't a person that can give a shit for anyone else. She doesn't care about nobody. She just cares about herself. She doesn't, you think that, Candace and Don Wells, they don't have no friends. They have no friends, and I'll tell you why they have no friends. They only want what they can get out of people. And when you no longer have anything to give, or they can't somehow use you, they're done with you. It's like Cam and Allie going up there. Don and Candace, was using Cam and Allie, to go at the people who were for Summer, to be allies for them, to do evil stuff, to get people, to not talk about Summer, to try to shut down Summer's case so that they could take the spotlight and try to continue to gaslight people with all their bullshit in order to keep, all the support coming in to them. These parents didn't care about Summer. They cared about, the gift cards and the PayPals and the Venmos and the Cash Apps, and they cared about, their Candace's little wish list is and all the stuff, and Cam was getting people to donate all this stuff to fix the house up there. And then he was doing, pure evil for Donald by attacking the people who truly loved Summer, cared about Summer, and was doing righteous for the victim. He had them on the devil's side, right? He had them on the devil's side, just like Benny Keys. Yeah, it didn't take much. I think Benny Keys was already on Satan's side, to be honest with you. So I can't blame Don and Candace. I can't say they got him on Satan's side because that guy was already there. Just saying, he ran in willing to do as much evil as he could for the Wells. So I can't say they actually was leading Benny anywhere, but I think at some point Benny Keys grew to conscience, and he really wanted, for once he really wanted to try to see what happened to it, to this missing child, which was Summer. And as soon as Don and Candace realized that that Benny's really working for this kid and not for any other reasons there, they turned on him, right? They turned on him like a snake because, they seen him as a Judas. They seen him as a traitor. And, and that's the way it was up there for the multitude of people that was running up there, bootlicking and backside kissing and doing, all, basically doing what white boys doing right now, still doing. And it is what it is. But that's how they treat people. That's how they treat people. And they laugh and they laugh and they laugh. I was there when it was happening. You guys know I was there when it happened. And man, did they get a real kick out of what they was doing to these people. I mean, it was it was hard to watch. It was very hard to watch. When you're a righteous person, I had to keep my mind focused on why I'm there. I had to keep my mind on, why I was there for Summer. Nothing more, nothing less. And I had to, constantly remind myself that that's why I'm here. And, and I, as much as I felt, as much as I felt sorry for all of this multitude of people who was up there, bootlicking and doing all of this, as sorry as I felt for these people, and as much as I wanted to, to put my real input to Don and Candace about, what evil pieces of shit they was and how no one should be treated like that. I had to hold my silence for Summer's sake. I had to, for her sake, I was working for her, not Benny Keys, not out, not no Cam and Alleys, not for any of those other people that were up there getting used and abused up by the Wells. I wasn't working for none of them. Actually, I was probably nicer to them than I should have been, the way they was coming at me sideways and being so damn evil, and to someone that was just, trying to find out what's going on with this little girl so she could be brought home and justice could be served. And they wasn't working for Summer. Cam and Allie wasn't working for Summer. They was working for themselves. And Benny Keys was working at the beginning. He was working for himself too. And a lot of those other bootlickers were working for themselves as well, right? Like Day Days and Jinkies and all of them, and they all, they all got rolled. They got their asses rolled. And it just is what it is, they got rolled. And, and Don and Candace, they thought it was absolutely hilarious. And I'm not going to lie, for summer's sake, I laughed. Matter of fact, when some of them got rolled, and the picture of them coming off of that hill, you know, I'm kind of, I got this visual picture of them, what it would look like, them rolling off the hill. I laughed. I can't, I'm not gonna lie, I laughed my ass off. I thought it was fucking funny too. Sometimes I thought it was funny. Not because, Don and Candace were so evil and did them so horribly. I laughed because, um, I could actually see them getting rolled, like, fall over, you know, the boot and start rolling out onto Ben Hill, right? And really fast, like, some of them faster than others, picking up, leaves and this and that, and, maybe a piece of bark on the way down. Um, you know, and yeah, I thought that, and that's what they deserved in a way too. I had to also face the truth that, these people, didn't care about little Summer. They didn't stick with the victim. They didn't stick with finding the answers for this little girl. They wanted to befriend these evil beings, and they wanted to do their evil deeds, and they wanted to, be real smoochers, right? Real smoochers to the backside, turd pop suckers. And, you know, and almost you have to face that they deserve they really deserve getting rolled, right? And yeah, and then you guys don't have, you don't have PG's brain. You don't have PG's brain because, if you had my brain, then you would know what I'm talking about. When I hear when the Wells were laughing about, Cam and Allie, for instance, or they were laughing about, the sisters there and so forth and so on. What I'm seeing is, the wheels on the bus go round and round, you know what I'm saying? And you're just these different tunes running through your head, and and you're seeing, you're able to, see them really, going pretty fast, to the bottom down there. And personally, and you could also hear, like Daisy and Jinkies, right? You could almost hear what they're saying, like, you know, how could they do that to us? I can't believe they do that to us, right? And when you're hearing this kind, when you're, yeah, my mind can get away from me. And, and I find this stuff funny. I really found it funny. And I did laugh, but, I also laughed. I also laughed, you know, because I had to for Summer's sake. I had to for Summer's sake. What you don't understand is why am I going to go up to bat? Why am I going to go up to bat for Cam and Allie? Why am I going to go up to bat for Benny Keys? Why am I going to go up to bat for these evil beings? Like, the two sisters. Why am I going to go up to bat for these people that did me so wrong? And then, lose a lot of information I could get for Summer. End up losing a whole lot of stuff I could get for her. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I came out here You know, not to defend evil people coming at me sideways. I came out here to defend a 5-year-old child. I came out here to find out what happened to Summer Moon Utah Wells, to try to get all the answers we could to help find her and bring her home. That's what I came out here for. I didn't come out here for any other reason. And, you know, and I needed all the information I could get. I needed all the recordings I could get to turn over to, you know, to law enforcement, TBI. I needed everything I could get for this little girl. And I got it. And I got it. And I'm still getting it. And I'm going to continue to get it. And that's just the way it is. You know, where Don and Candace is concerned, I don't need anything else from them. They couldn't give me anything else if they wanted to. Don and Candace has already painted a full portrait of how damn evil they are. They've painted a full portrait of, you know, all of their shenanigans and what roles they played in Summer's disappearance. They've already, you know, they've already painted the full picture. You know, I don't need to pick up the paintbrush no more where they're concerned. And, you know, they don't roll PG off the hill. Them motherfuckers got rolled. It was PG not wanting anything to do with them. Matter of fact, Don Wells, just not too long ago, tried to friend request me on Summer's Facebook. I took him. I accepted him so I could look at everything for Summer's sake to see if there's anything there that could possibly help Summer. And then I unfriended him. And that's what I did. Because you know what? I ain't no friends with those people. I'm going to tell you who I'm friends with. I'm friends with Summer Moon Utah Wells. I'm friends with God Almighty and Jesus Christ. Matter of fact, Jesus is my best friend. And I'm going to tell you what. I don't hang around with losers like the Wells. I'm going to tell you something. You don't use me. You don't use me. I don't give a damn if you stay up 24/7. You still ain't going to be intelligent enough to use me. Because I'm going to be getting my sleep, right? I'm going to be getting my sleep, baby. I mean, they can get up early and stay up late. They still won't be using PG. I see fucking evil a mile away. And I'm going to tell you right now, the only thing that I want from evil is a way to get it put in prison where it belongs. That's it. I don't want nothing else for it. Nothing. I want evil off our streets. I don't befriend that shit. That shit befriends me. And I didn't, and that was their mistake, not mine. That was their mistake. I mean, if evil wants to befriend me, wants to give me enough information to get their ass off the street and where they belong, hey, who am I? Who am I not to help society? Who am I not to make our world a better place? Of course I want our world to be a better place. But I don't like evil. And I've always let that be known. I do not like evil. I can't stand it. Evil makes me sick. And I'm going to tell you, evil destroys evil. Evil destroys evil a lot more than it destroys righteousness. What I'm saying is, you know, yeah, Summer was an innocent 5-year-old little girl who got destroyed by this evilness. But I'm going to tell you something. This evilness up on Ben Hill Road, man, it has been destroying each other for years. For years. Fred Hill and Laura, those people was, you know, sitting there destroying others and themselves. Don and Candace and Grandis destroying other people and themselves. Marlena Crawford and all of them destroying other people and themselves. All of these people, I'm going to tell you, there's no honor among these people. These people sit around and they fucking destroy not only themselves, but one another every single day. Every single day. Because that's how evil works. And if you leave it alone long enough, it'll completely destroy one another. Because that's what it does. That's what it does. Just saying. They destroy one another way more than they destroy anything else. And that's the truth. And why does law enforcement really not step into it when they're destroying one another? Why does law enforcement, you know, just kind of let it loose, you know? I tell you why. Because that's the only way law enforcement is really able to clean up our society right now, is by letting it clean up itself. You got too many people fighting against law enforcement by, you know, by doing the right thing and getting these people off the street and put into prison. So what choice do they have? What choice do they have? Just let it go and you know, and then basically, you know, when they're picking these people up, you know, when they're picking them up after they're completely destroyed by this evilness, they say, oh, you know, I expected that. They seen that coming. And they just really don't, you know, do nothing to you know, to solve the cases. Because, you know, they don't care about that evil destroying evil. That's the only way society has of getting it out of the way now. And you guys know that as much as I do. But when that evil destroys an innocent 5-year-old little girl, well, then law enforcement is going to open their eyes, they're going to open their ears, and they're going to do everything they can to solve that case, because this innocent child didn't deserve it. That evil done overstepped its damn boundaries. And that child didn't deserve it. And law enforcement will work at that point to solve that particular case, whether people believe it or they don't. Law enforcement's doing everything they can, you know, in my opinion, they're doing everything they can behind the scenes to get enough. You get one shot at prosecution. And if you don't have some real solid stuff to prosecute upon, well, you don't get a second chance. And they've been, you know, diligently trying to get what it takes to prosecute. They're fighting for it. There's a lot of people out there who loves this little girl. A lot of people, in law enforcement cares about Summer the way you do. There's a lot of them, that, believe it or not, law enforcement adopts these kids just like we do. And more kids than you think. Not just missing kids like Summer, but they adopt other children as well. The kids that don't have much, the kids that wish, like wish they had a basketball court and they don't. Law enforcement will get them one. Kids that wish, they could have a nice pair of shoes, law enforcement will get them some. Kids that look like they're hungry, law enforcement, will actually pick up, food and take it into those kind of areas. And, where all of these kids are running outside and so forth and so on, and they will feed those kids. You'd be surprised behind the scenes how much law enforcement does do, and how many children they do care about. You don't see it because they don't say it. But children is the one thing that law enforcement cares about. Children are the one thing that law enforcement can't get out of their minds. They fight. They fight. Like Ronnie Lawson. He has to fight to be able to get Summer out of his mind long enough to focus on other stuff. But she's always there. She's always there in his mind. Always there, and and whether you guys see it or you don't, he's always checking up on her case to see where it's at, how it's going, some days more than others. Because cases like Summer's haunt you. They haunt you. Because like the Wells boys who got gaslighted in the basement, law enforcement is harder on themselves than the people could ever be on them. Law enforcement sits there and wonders, why didn't I see this? Why didn't I see that? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Why was I so gullible? Why did I believe these people were incapable of doing such an evil deed? Why didn't I see them for what they was? Why didn't I treat this, differently? They do. They do. That's how they are motivated. Do you think Ronnie Lawson doesn't think back how he should have suspected these people to be evil? Do you think he doesn't think back that he should have roped that place off and he should have made it a crime scene? Do you think that it doesn't haunt him that he dropped the ball on Summer's case and hasn't been able to solve it up to this point? You don't think that bothers him? It does. It does bother him. I mean, he ain't gonna come out, in tears and everything. But that man has come out. He came out. I mean, everybody saw him on the news. Everybody saw him, how upset he was when he said they are not cooperating. No signs of an abduction. That these people, they lawyered up. They're not cooperating. I mean, he was upset. But what can he do? What can he do? I mean, there's not a lot he can do once his officers go in there and basically, are gullible, thinking the little girl walked off, that they're going to find her and mess everything up, before they realize, This is a sinister case. What can he do? I mean, Ronnie said, he was going to solve Summer's case. Well, law enforcement was back up there. They're back on Ben Hill Road. You know, I think he's trying to do all he can. But you had a lot of people surrounding this case, a lot of shady people surrounding Summer's case that was doing nothing but lie. You had the Wells lying, playing games. You had Jody Sue and Andy lying, playing games. You had Fred Hill and Laura lying, playing games. You had Marlena Crawford, who, ran the hell off and disappeared, along with, the rest of her family. You had a lot of people, getting on live. The ones that, seemed to want to talk, was going to talk, ended up not being able to talk, right? You got a lot going on in this case. Ronnie Lawson, Ronnie, I don't know if Ronnie knew everybody on that road. I think Ronnie Lawson did know the Bernards. I think Ronnie Lawson knew Fred Hill. I think Ronnie Lawson did know a few people. I think he knew old Miss Goad, and I think he probably knew Don Wells' stepdad before he passed away, old Mr. Goad. I'm sure Ronnie knew, quite a bit of people because, everybody knows everybody in small places like that. But I don't think Ronnie really knew Don and Candace. I don't think that, I mean, none of us would suspect someone of doing something evil to their child. You know, we wouldn't suspect it either. I mean, you got to put your feet in, the shoes of law enforcement, or put them in your own shoes. I mean, I've got neighbors. And if one of their children, if they started hollering, their kid's missing, then I'm just going to assume. I'm going to assume that it wandered off or someone else did something bad. I'm not going to suspect them. I mean, that's one of the last things that I would suspect. Why? Because, I live around them. I think I know them. I mean, after doing this, after being out here in this true crime community, well, I would suspect them right off, right? I would suspect them. I would be looking at them right off until until it proves me different. Because, we've been out here and, like Ernie was saying, 99.9% of the time, it's the parents or someone the parents knows, someone the child knew, So with that being said, of course, we're going to look directly at them because of, the education we've got from out here. But if we didn't have this education out here, and maybe education behind the scenes, in certain fields or whatever that deal with that kind of stuff, we might, you know, what I'm saying is, before I was ever educated in all of this kind of stuff, I wouldn't suspect the parents. Just a normal citizen, everyday citizen, living in a community with a bunch of people, and something happened, I would be looking elsewhere just like law enforcement did. That's true. I wouldn't, my mind does not want to believe anyone is evil enough to destroy their own child. My mind does not want to believe that. My mind wants to believe that, the child wandered off. We're going to find it. That's what my mind wants to believe. If it's in a rural area, like where Don and Candace lived, I'm going to want to believe that the child just chased a puppy or seen something and went after it, got turned around, and we're going to find it out there. That's what I want to believe. I can't blame law enforcement for, believing that. I can't, but I can blame them. I can blame them for not interrogating the parents to the fullest extent after Don and Candace told them Summer's not there. Because as soon as parents tell you where the child's not, then that's probable cause to take them in and interrogate the hell out of them. Because you can't tell me where a child ain't unless you know where it is. And if you keep telling me where it isn't, then you need to be interrogated, right? And that's the part that, that upsets me, is that they, were not willing to go that extra mile for Summer and interrogate Don and Candace and Grandis way more than what they did. And they should not have let them come down the next day. Ronnie Lawson should have got on the phone and found a couple of good detectives to go in there and interrogate the hell out of them all night long. While law enforcement was up on the hill searching and doing all the stuff they was needing to do, Don, Candace, and Grandis should have all been at the police station getting the hell interrogated out of them, while everything's still fresh in their mind and they can remember it. Put a 1 in the chat if you agree with me. They should not have been allowed to wait till the next day. That's my opinion. I mean, those are the areas that upset me when it comes to Summer's case. Those are the areas that upset me. Ronnie dropping the ball and wanting to not believe that someone's evil enough to do such a horrible thing to their child. I don't hold against him, because I don't, I wouldn't want to believe that either. But once these parents start telling you where the child isn't, then they must know where it is, and they need to be taken in, and they shouldn't have been allowed to wait till the next day. They should have been taken in right then and there, because that's when everything's fresh in their mind, and they need to be interrogated right away. Interrogation needs to start immediately. When law enforcement got up there at 7:30 that night, Don, Candace, and Grandis should have all been put in squad cars. They should have all been taken downtown, and they all should have been separated into different rooms, and different detectives should have went in and interrogated them. And then, what I'm saying is they should have had one interrogating Grandis, one with Candace, one with Donald, and then the one doing Donald should have went into Candace's room, and then Grandis's room. They should have switched, and they should have been keeping notes of all the indiscrepancies going on in and around Summer's case from what these people were saying. And then they should have mashed up all of their sheets to see, to see if these people, were able to keep their story straight or if their stories kept changing. And to be honest with you, I think at that particular time, I think Candace would have broke. Put a 1 in the chat if you agree. I think if they would have took Candace's ass and Don and Candace and Grandis down to law enforcement and interrogated them that very evening, I truly believe that Candace Wells would have broke. I don't think Don would have, and I don't think old Grandma would have. But I really think Candace would have. I think she would have melted. I think she would have melted. And I think we would have known what happened to Summer now. Just saying, that's my opinion. But because they allowed her to get on the phone and talk to Allison and talk to hunters and talk to all these different people, and they allowed Dawn to get in her head all night, and they allowed Grandis to get in her head all night, I think that's why, Dawn and Grandis were strengthening Candace. They were strengthening her. And all of these friends were strengthening her. And just like over the past 4 years, you had all of these turd pop suckers, these supporters, going up and strengthening her. And that's why we don't know where Summer's at. These people was giving Candace every reason not to tell instead of giving her every reason to tell. That's just my opinion. I'll keep that too. I think if they would have pulled Hunter in, I think if they would have overrided Allison and pulled Hunter in, actually, I would have took Allison and Hunter into the interrogation. I would have been interrogating Allison and her son. I'd have interrogated them both. I'd have said, because your son was with Candace that day, and this little girl, we can't tell, it's inconclusive if she's alive or unalive on the milk jugs. We need you and your son in here to question. They should have went to Allison's house that evening and picked up Hunter and picked up Allison. Wherever they were, they should have picked them up, and they should have took them in along with Candace, Grandis, and Donald. And they should have interrogated them as well. They should have been asking Allison, where was these clothes put on this child at? Your son said she was wet in the back of the vehicle on a pillow when they went back over to Walgreens. That means that this means that this little girl was wet through Walgreens, through Sonic's, and at the store. Now, where did she get put into this outfit for you to be able to see her on the milk jugs when they got to your house? Where could she have been dressed? Hunter, where was Summer dressed? When was, you stated that she was wet on a pillow against that door. So where was she dressed? You were in the vehicle, all, with this child in a wet bathing suit the whole time. You said she's wet through Sonic's. You say she's wet through Walgreens. You say she's wet at the store. Where did she get, was she still wet? Was she still wet when you got to your house? Because your mother says that, hey, She was in that outfit laying on those milk jugs when she got to our house. So, somebody's lying here. Somebody's lying. Now, are you lying? Is your mother lying? We want to know how this little girl got into her first day school outfit. And we want to know where she got into it at. And they should have told Hunter, you're lying. When or your mother's lying. And you can't lie to law enforcement. When you lie to us like this, we can prosecute you. We can prosecute the hell out of you. Right? On a lot of different charges. So either you are going to jail or your mom's going to jail, because your mom says she's in those clothes at that house. You say she's wet. So one of you are going to jail. And I'm sure that, when they think that one of them's going to jail, they're going to start talking. They're going to start telling the truth. Put a 1 in the chat if you think I'm right. I think I'm right. I don't think Allison wants to be sitting in prison for lying to law enforcement about a child being in clothes when her son said clearly the child was wet. And that is the strategy that you have to pull to get the answers in a missing child's case. That's just the way it is. Yeah. They wouldn't have to worry. They wouldn't have had, I would have told Allison, you don't have to worry about getting rolled off that hill, baby. You're going to have to be worrying about getting rolled in one of them cells over there. And not getting your ass back out for a long time. For a long time. I'd have read her Miranda rights. I'd have said, your boy over there says that absolutely that little girl was not dressed, laying on milk jugs when they pulled up in front of your house. Sounds to me like your house is where that little girl got put in that outfit and propped up on those milk jugs. Now, is there something you'd like to tell us before we put you in a jail cell? Because clearly you're lying, and you're lying to law enforcement, which is against the law. And we will hold you accountable. See, this stuff wasn't handled right. It wasn't handled right, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I'm not even law enforcement in Hawkins County, right? But this case was not handled right. You'd be surprised what you could get out of people when you've got two people related inside different questioning rooms, interrogation rooms, and you're playing one against the other. And you've got enough to put somebody in jail because one of them's lying. You're going to get the truth because nobody wants to be locked up. Nobody wants to get locked up for 24 hours, let alone a few years. And when you lie to law enforcement, let me tell you, you can make that stick. You can make that stick. Along with the fact that, they're hindering an investigation. You can get them for that too. You could get them for hindering the investigation. I mean, there's a whole lot of other things you can get them on. That's just that's the lying and hindering an investigation. That's just a few things. And it packs some time. It packs some time in jail. Packs a pretty good hefty fines too. And and if you scare them up, if you scare them up enough and let them know that you're going to, you're going to go for the whole book being thrown at them. And they don't look like they're going to be going home tonight. Well, they'll start talking, right? They'll start talking. Um, I don't know, if one of them broke, like say Hunter got scared and he broke and said, yeah, they took Summer into his house where his mom and Candace and Grandis and them, started dressing Summer and doing this stuff, and they'd have got him to break, then yeah, Allison would have got in tampering with evidence, absolutely. you know, um, failure to, to report a crime, a serious crime, she would have gotten in trouble for a whole lot of things. She would have got, Allison definitely would have got some time as well. Um, you know, she'd have got hindering, tampering. She'd have got all kinds of shit. But tampering is something you got to prove. Somebody's got to speak up and tell. And I think Hunter would have. I think, he would have been so scared up. I think he would have. I think he would have told. But they weren't willing to go the extra mile for this little girl and, to solve her case. And, does that have anything to do with Ronnie Lawson? Or does that have to do with other people, who's supposed to be working all of it on doing all the work on this and ain't? Does Ronnie need to look into the people so that he trusts and to handle these things? Does he need to look into it and see why they're not, or they didn't handle it? I think so. That's just my opinion. I think so. I think Ronnie, is up there in age. I think he, feels that he can trust people that maybe he can't. Right? Did anybody else see YouTube? I think it was YouTube had a little skit about McDonald's, for instance. And there was this girl, she was, I watched the video. There was a girl that worked for McDonald's and a guy. And there was this manager woman. And the manager woman was, back in the office where, where they hide, right? Where they like to hide. Back there, eating a Big Mac, drinking a shake, whatever. Acting like they're doing paperwork, and probably they're just playing on their phone or whatever. Sitting around. And these two employees are out there handling the whole place on their own. It's night shift. They're handling everything on their own. And there's a car pulls up, and they didn't order at the drive-through. The car just came through, and they ordered, they wanted the girl to take their order right at that window. And when she told them they have to go back around, that she can't do that because there's other orders behind her that need to go out, and they'll have to go back around and do it the proper way as well. Well, the people in the car started, being rude and mean and ugly and putting up their fingers and, whatever, just getting belligerent and out of control, and kind of, got to the girl, right? Got to the girl on the inside, where she was at one point hanging out the window. And then because she wouldn't fit through the window, right? She wouldn't fit through it. She goes out, to deliver the food to the car behind them because they won't move. And after she delivers the food to the car behind them, she allows, them to own her feelings, and the big altercation breaks out. Well, when the big altercation breaks out, the girl that actually worked at McDonald's ends up getting arrested, right? She ends up getting arrested, but she also loses her job. The manager, says that she did not follow protocol and she shouldn't have went out there and all of these things, she wasn't supposed to let her temper get to her, and so forth and so on. So, immediately, McDonald's don't want to take no responsibility for their manager hiding instead of being out there running the business, right? And watching over the employees the way they're supposed to. I mean, you can't be sitting around the corner not hearing all of this altercation going on. So with that being said, the manager pretty much throws this girl under the bus, to save McDonald's, and her job, I'm sure. That's what it seemed like to me. That's my opinion. That's kind of like it is, once they went up on Ben Hill Road, they dropped the ball, right? They dropped the ball and they dropped it really bad. And then they kind of, turned this case over to TBI, right? It's in TBI's hands now. Don't call Hawkins County, call TBI. TBI's handling, this particular case. They done fouled it up so bad that they want to put it in somebody else's corner. And that kind of seems like where it went with Summers' case. Instead of owning up to what they done and trying to pick the ball back up, they just do it in somebody else's corner. And that's the way things go. That's the way things go. That's what happens. Nobody wants to own up to their shortcomings. Nobody wants to own up to their mistakes. And that's what's happened in Summers' case. And that's why, it's been hell to solve, because it's getting in too many hands. And, it's getting in too many hands. And maybe some of those hands don't want it solved. Right? Don and Candace don't want it solved. Andy and Jody Sue, well, Jody Sue really don't want it solved, but Andy does. I feel that Andy Bernard wants Summers' case solved. Put a 1 in the chat if you agree with me. I believe Andy Bernard wants Summers' case solved. I believe that Fred Hill wants Summer's case solved. I really do. I believe Fred wants it solved. I believe Andy wants it solved. I believe Marlena Crawford wants Summer's case solved. I think there's a lot more of these people surrounding Summer's case wanting it solved now, right now, than they ever did before. That's my opinion. Because little by little they're letting some stuff out of the bag. They're letting a lot of, information out of the bag. Andy has been letting stuff out little by little. Fred Hill has been letting a lot of things out. Marlena Crawford, she definitely was letting it out, and her brother too. And from what I'm hearing, I don't know how true it is, but I heard that this Jimmy Long guy, he's been talking pretty good as well. You know, that's just my opinion. I think Fred's got a motive. I think Fred Hill has a motive for why he wants Summer's case solved. I think he's got a motive. I think Fred feels that if Summer's case is solved, then Cotton Simpson will go away. I don't think Fred's really worried about Summer's case, but I think he's worried about Cotton. That's my opinion. I don't know if Fred, I think Fred's hands are dirty in Summer's case to an extent, like, giving Don Wells information that Don asked and needed in order to be able to, get a lot of the things that happened during that time done. And that's my opinion. But I think Andy Bernard's hands are even dirtier than that, to be honest with you. I think Andy Bernard's hands are really dirty. I think Andy Bernard knows that Candace met up with Chad. Because I think Andy's the one who had Chad meeting up with Candace that day. I think that's why Don Wells was paying. Do you remember Fred said that Don Wells went up to Andy that evening and handed him money, gave him some monies? I think Andy, that was the monies for having Chad meet up with Candace to go over there and do what they did. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. I'm going to keep it. But I think Andy Bernard's hands are dirty. Now, why is his hands dirty? I think that it's possible that his boy is messed up in this somehow. I'm thinking that his son could be messed up in this somehow. That's my opinion. I think his boy was visiting the hill over there, was visiting up the hill over there. That's my opinion too. Just saying. And I think that's why Andy's hands got dirty in all of this. That's what I think. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think I'm right. And that, that's my opinion. I think all of them guys should have had to take lie detectors tests. Every damn one of them. I think Fred and Laura should have been asked. I think everybody around there should have been asked to go down and take a lie detectors test. We just want to ask, did you see this little girl? Did you do anything to this little girl? You know, we just basic questions just to rule you out, just to, to rule you out so that we can rule other people in, right? I would have been asking because, they ain't that many people on Ben Hill Road. There's not that damn many people. And it would have been nothing for law enforcement to just, bring all of these people in and run them through, these tests to exclude the ones that pass. Because we know now that Don and Candace and Grandis didn't, right? We know they didn't. Because if they did, we would have seen all the damn paperwork. We just saw it. Man, they come running out here like they got mother freaking straight A report cards with that bullshit from DCS, right? Put a one in the chat. They come running out like freaking school kids, right? Like they couldn't wait. Like they was going to get a mother freaking dollar for every A on that paper, right? And they would have done the same thing if it would have been a past lie detectors test. That's my opinion. I'll keep it. But I'm damn sure they would have. They send you a copy. Just like Fred got one, Don and Candace got one. And that shit said, mother freaking shady mother effers. Right? I bet you it had mother freaking big stamp on it in red. Shady ass mother freakers. That's why they didn't want to come out here and show it. That's my opinion. It's called you failed miserably, right? You totally and utterly failed, right? No pass freaking go. I'm going to tell you something about Hawkins County. It seems like everybody down there is packing a mother freaking get out of jail free card, right? That's every last one of them. I think every last one of them mother freakers play Monopoly and they got that card in their pocket. They probably, every one of them's got one of those in their wallet. Because it seems like no matter what they do, they get put in jail and the next thing you know, they're being turned loose. They got like this, this get out of jail free card. They commit some terrible crimes and they're sitting at home instead of in prison where they need to be. I don't understand it. You was in any other state, your ass would be locked up for a long time. If the judge gave you 20 years, you'd be serving it. Right? If the judge gave you 10 years, you'd be serving it. You wouldn't be getting no free pass to leave. I'm not understanding how do they get out of jail like that? How does these people get 20-year sentences and mother freaking 19 of it suspended? Have you wondered about that one? I sure in the hell would like to know about that loophole. TBI update. We would like to thank the TBI for calling us and asking if they could come look over the road below our house. Thank you for not forgetting our daughter. Don't that just make you sick? Don't that just make you sick? Where, 4-year circle, a big 4-year circle, and where did it lead law enforcement back to? 110 Ben Hill. Right? Right back to the scene of the crime where Summer Moon Utah Wells disappeared. Right back to the crime. Right? And what the hell does this mean? Did you notice that they put out a slushy? A freaking slushy? The very thing that Summer was supposed to have some of that day. And I don't believe she was with us to have a lick of it, if you ask me. Is this supposed to be some inside joke? They put out a slushy? Thinking of you, Josie, Wyatt, Waylon, Summer? Are they trying to send Josie, Wyatt, and Waylon some kind of message through this slushy that Summer's supposed to have but didn't? Are they trying to send these kids some, keep your mouth shut message? Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of suspicious right there, right? Put a 1 in the chat if you find that suspicious. I find this very suspicious. Just saying. Yeah. Man, this is all sad. This is really sad. Look at this. Let's look right here. We miss you, Josie. Your church misses you. We pray for you all day long. Trust God, Mom and Dad. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Those kids did trust God, didn't they? And it was God that had to get them out of there, right? It was God that had to, get them out of there. I believe that God, truly believe that God took Summer home so these boys could be took and put in a better place. It costed Summer for her brothers to be in a better place. Right? That little girl paid the price. And then right there, God's angels are watching over you, Josie. What is that supposed to mean? What is that supposed to mean? Angels were watching over Summer, right? Are they trying to say that, angels were watching over your sister and they took her? They're watching over you too, Josie. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful what choices you make. Right? They might end up taking you too. Are these threats? Are these threats to these children? In my opinion, they can possibly be threats. It don't sound right. This don't sound right. This sounds really weird. Right? Right? My opinion is to make them be quiet. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking too, you guys. That's exactly what I'm thinking too. How DCS hindered the Summer Wells case. They continuously distracted us from Summer. Why? Nobody did. Nobody was distracting Don and Candace from Summer but Don and Candace. Put a one in the chat if you remember Candace going up on many, many, many platforms, and refusing to talk about Summer. Put a one in the chat if you remember Candace. The stipulation for her to come up on people's panels was to just chit chat and party down and talk about nothings, and to time out and block people who even mentioned Summer's name. Oh, law enforcement was distracting her from talking about her daughter on all the platforms that people gave her. Oh, hell no. She was the one that wouldn't talk about her daughter, that didn't want to talk about her daughter. And that was the stipulations when she came up on someone's panel. That it was all about her, and you better not speak of Summer. This is such bullshit. And Dom Wells as well. Dom Wells wanted to talk about his sisters. He wanted to talk about religion. He wanted to talk about all the neighbors. He wanted to talk about anything and everything but his daughter, Summer Moon Utah Wells, which people gave him a platform as well. They let him up on their panels, and he did not want to talk about his daughter at all. Period. Candace Grandis and Dom Wells wanted to avoid the topic of Summer because it's the topic that could have got them put in prison. And they were afraid of messing up and ending up in jail. Now, that's my opinion. I'll keep it. But DCS hindering them, that's a damn lie. Law enforcement didn't hinder them. DCS didn't hinder them. Nobody hindered them from talking about their missing daughter and fighting to get her found. They hindered themselves. They were the ones hindering themselves, and they were trying to hinder everyone else because they didn't want their daughter found. They knew if their daughter got found, their asses would be in prison. And that's my opinion. I'll keep it. I'll keep it. But the truth is, nobody hindered them but them. And I'm not going to say in my opinion because that's the fucking truth. That right there is solid. Boys, we didn't give you all away. They made us. They made us think they were just helping out. You're a liar, Dom Wells. You tried to say that you allowed them to take the boys. You didn't allow them to do nothing. They came up on that hill because law enforcement couldn't clear you and Candace and Summer's disappearance. They had to remove the kids because you were suspects. And they couldn't leave the kids on Ben Hill Road when you and your wife and mother-in-law were all the number one suspects because another child could end up missing. And that would really be a problem. That would really become a problem. So they had to remove the boys because until you could clear yourself with law enforcement, which you didn't ever do. You didn't ever do it. You're still a suspect right now. That's the truth, right? That's the truth. They're still suspects.
Our church friends were on the property helping our boys. DCS never talked to them, our church, or pastor after Summer disappeared. Do they?
I think DCS talked to everybody. DCS came up there and removed the boys, right? They came up there and removed them. They had to talk to them to remove them. They had to talk to Don and Candace to remove them. They had to tell them what they were doing and why. It's bullshit.
The Seventh-day Adventist? Or were they just so hungry to intervene in the Summers case? Or were they judging us with their lust to get our boys? Score. We got all.
With their lust? With their lust? Wow, that's a weird choice of fucking word to say, right? Ain't that freaking kind of creepy right there? Their lust to get the boys. I'm going to tell you, when people's writing stuff like this, they're telling you way more about themselves than they'll ever tell you about DCS or anyone else. And that word right there, lust. And ain't it Tim Mullins writing this? Isn't it Tim Mullins writing this? Put a one in the chat if he's the one writing this. I think he is. I'm pretty sure he's the one, you know, advocating and writing all this stuff. And he uses the choice word of lust for the boys? Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Oh, damn. This ain't sounding good. This may explain why he, you know, came riding in, you know, come riding in there like the devil and has been, you know, advocating for all this evilness ever since. You know, you got to wonder what his involvement in all of this is. I mean, this guy acts like he's got some dog in the race too. And he's really been after those boys. Right? Like he's been after the boys. Not so much Summer, the boys. What the fuck's up with that? Just my opinion, you know. My opinion is, you know, I think you guys know what my opinion is now.
3. DCS absolutely distracted and hindered us from law enforcement to focus on what happened to Summer. Then they took 3 of the 5 witnesses away. We needed our sons. They needed us. Together we needed to work at finding Summer.
And they didn't take three of the 5 witnesses. The boys weren't witnesses to nothing. The boys were inside the house, hungry as hell, trying to get a bite to eat, trying to, you know, just survive in that hellhole, just trying to survive up in that damn hellhole. You know, make it another day, Tim. Make it another day up in there. But you probably know that, don't you? You probably know that. Something weird about you using that word lust. That's creepy. That's just fucking creepy right there. Lust to get our boys. What the hell? Yeah. But let me get them back on track here. Those boys didn't witness anything. Those boys thought their sister was home. They went to that vehicle. They seen Grandis, Candace, and Summer. They got the groceries, ran in the house to eat. The 2 witnesses was outside called Grandis and Candace. There's only 2 witnesses, Grandis and Candace, because that's who Summer was in the care of. Summer was not in the care of the 3 boys. She was in the care of her mother and her grandmother. And she'd been in the care of them all day long. Right? And she was in the care of them all the way up to the minute she disappeared. So they didn't take no witnesses. They took the 3 boys and they left 2 fucking suspects there. Grandis and Candace ain't witnesses. They're suspects. And we all know it.
DCS was a cancer of distraction. They left us raw.
A cancer of distraction. I think the cancer was right there on Ben Hill Road eating away at them 4 children. If you guys agree with me, put a 1 in the chat. Because I think the fucking cancer was right there on Ben Hill Road, eating away at those 3 kids, day in and day out, for a long time. What seemed like eternity, I'm sure, to those children. The only thing I got against DCS is they didn't take those kids sooner. That they didn't save Summer. That's the only thing I got against them. Is they got there too late.
Shattered, to an empty house stripped of any outlet for our emotions. They kidnapped fatherhood and motherhood from us when we needed it most.
Fatherhood, motherhood, no. What mother starts drinking every single day at 5, 6 o'clock until they're completely passed out and don't know a damn thing till the next day? What mother does that? What mother is incoherent if her child needed her at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning? That ain't a mother, baby. Because a mother doesn't suck down liquor every single night until they pass out and not know what's going on in their household or with their children. Right? That ain't a mother. That's a freaking alcoholic slob, if you ask me.
They left us with the sentence of silence in our home. 100 helpful resources in this area to help sons, but DCS's judgmental, untrained addiction for children first stomped on every one of resources as if they knew better.
You know what? They had like 13 years, right? 13 years to use those resources to help their children, and they didn't damn use them before, right? And they wouldn't have been using them after, right? What the hell's he talking about? He wants to talk about all these resources that wasn't ever used before. And DCS wasn't there for, they hadn't been there 13 years. But these kids weren't getting no help or any resources. They were getting used, abused, and grossly neglected. Right? That's what we heard. And in my opinion, it's true.
On how to handle an Amber Alert family by legally trafficking our children from all they knew.
Legally trafficking our children. I'm going to tell you something. Child Protective Services did not want the Wells kids. They proved that by not removing them way before Summer went missing. They proved that by not and doing a better job of investigating and seeing the real horrors and terror that those children were living in every day. Child Protective Services totally and utterly dropped the ball on the Wells children. It's, just like all the neighbors did too, right? Just like all the neighbors did as well. And the church did as well. All these people could have helped and none of them did. Right? Do you think Robin ever thinks about how she could have saved Summer, but she was too damn busy to give a damn? Do you think it ever bothers her that she had an opportunity to reach out and help a child and didn't? I'm going to tell you. You asked me, these people, all these people were fake as hell. All these people that act like they gave a damn didn't. They didn't. And Summer paid the price. She paid the price.
How dare them distract us from Summer for 4 years?
Distract them from Summer? How dare them to distract them from Summer for 4 years? No. Nobody distracted anyone. What did Candace say? I hate to say this. I don't want to say this. But I have to set Summer aside and think about my boys, because my boys are still here, still alive, right? And you know what? What the hell was she on? She was on some type of substances then, right? Because that's exactly how she was talking. She couldn't even stay effing sober enough to open her live and talk about her children. I'm going to tell you something. How dare DCS? No, how dare Don and Candace? How dare them two try to blame everybody else for their own pure evilness? How dare them, Tim Mullins? How dare them? How about this for your distractions? Benny, oh Benny, I love you, my Benny. Please, my Benny, come back to Benny Hill Road. I promise I'll try to get rid of the odor that keeps you away, my baby. Remember that? Remember that? That was one hell of a fucking distraction, Tim. That still haunts me to this day. That's totally burnt my fragile little mind. That often keeps me awake at night. Right? Let's talk about some more distractions, Tim. Oh, I'm in the pool, Benny. I'm in the pool at the hotel. Throw me a bar of soap, baby, because you're the only one I'll ever take a bath for. Come on, I wash my dirty feet, my nasty behind. I'm washing my armpits. Now have to clean this pool out with iodine. Right? Let's talk about that distraction. Let's talk about, here we go round the mulberry bush, Benny sleep with Grandis. Benny sleep with my girlfriend. Now Benny, oh, I'm so upset because he won't come sleep with me. How about that? How about that distraction, Mr. Tim? How about that distraction? Right? Let's talk about some more distractions, Mr. Tim. Stop trying to break my door, bitch. What you doing? You're gonna break my door. Leave my door alone. We're out here talking about them sisters. We're talking about my sisters. We're going to talk about some religion. We're going to talk about what little bit of work we got done around the house. Come over here, Candace. We're going to have to get you a well health care check as soon as I'm able to get you as messed up on substances as me tonight. Right? Oh, let's go in the bathroom. Let's everybody go in the bathroom and watch me, use the toilet. And when I'm done, I gotta put that toilet paper in the wastebasket because you can't able to flush it. And while I'm in here, I might as well do some, illegal substances since I love them so much. Right? Yeah. You want to talk about distractions, Tim? What the heck is that with his head popped up in the background on that mother freaking device? Oh, shit. Is that Grandis? Is that Grand? Oh, my gosh. He's inside the house up on the freaking computer looking all over the place. Look at that. You want to talk about distractions? Because these are the distractions. Right? Oh crap! There's law enforcement. Oh yeah, Mr. Officer. This is open container. I'm sorry. I was just heading out to get myself a smoke because I wasn't smart enough to pick any up when I got off work today. And if I did, then I must have smoked them or I lost them somewhere. But I was going back out to get some more. Oh, I got to go to jail for almost a year. Okay, I got a missing daughter though. Could you take it easy on me? I got missing. I'm the number one. Yeah, I'm number one suspect in everything. Oh yeah, I know. Law enforcement's looking at me. Oh, jail be a good place to try questioning me up. Okay, well, I guess I can do 9 months there. Because I should have been thinking about my daughter instead of being out on the damn road all messed up like this with open containers and getting pulled over and I could have seriously hurt somebody driving like this, but I really didn't give well, you know what I'm saying, Mr. Officers. Yeah. You want to talk about distractions? Honey, there wasn't a damn thing distracting them from Summer or those boys except themselves. The same thing that was distracting them the whole time them children were walking through hell up on Ben Hill. It's called selfish, self-seeking, self-centered, not giving a damn about no one but themselves and taking care of no one but themselves. And those children were falling by the wayside until Child Protective Services did take them and put them in a home where they're living a better life. And some reason, Mr. Tim, you can't stand seeing that. What the hell is your problem? Why do you hate these kids being in a better atmosphere than what they've ever been in before? Why don't you answer that?
Shut up to the negative social media who only saw us after we were gutted by DCS hunters. What you saw was the insanity of us on social media strongly caused by DCS stealing our children and leaving us with nothing.
Oh my gosh. Do these people ever blame themselves? Does Don and Candace ever take self-blame? What we saw out here is the true parents that these children had. The true parents, the true freaking nightmare that these children were going through. That's what we saw. The whole damn world seen it. The whole world seen what these children had to live with every day. Yeah, they need to take accountability. Absolutely. They don't want to take accountability, but they need to. And this Tim guy, he needs to stop. He really needs to stop. He knows the truth and he needs to start telling the truth. He needs to stop being a freaking bootlicker, a backside kisser, a freaking turd pop sucker, and start thinking about Summer Moon Utah Wells, the real victim in all of this. He needs to start facing the truth that these parents are number one suspects that can't clear themselves with law enforcement, and that house is no place for 3 more children to go back to until after they figure out what happened to the one, right? What does this man have to gain by these little boys popping back up on that hill? What the hell do you got to gain, Tim? What do you have to gain by 3 little boys popping back up? You act like you lost something. You act like you lost more than Dawn and Candace with them boys being gone. And that just ain't fucking normal. This is not sounding normal. You are fighting harder to get these little boys on that hill than their own parents are. Put a 1 in the chat if you find this to be true, because you guys know it's true. This weirdo dude has been fighting to get these little children back on that hill. More so than Dawn and Candace ever did. What does he got to gain by these little boys' return? What does he have to gain? There's something fucking not right. I think he needs to be looked into. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. This is creepy and weird. This guy acts like he lost his kids instead of Dawn and Candace losing theirs. And there's something fucking wrong with this picture. Just saying. Right? I'm just saying. Yeah, definitely creepy. Definitely freaking creepy, y'all. Right? Yeah, wondering it for years. Exactly. Yeah, access to them. Yeah, I'm believing that. I'm believing that. That's my opinion too. There's something, there's something ain't right. Yeah, he did, didn't he? He sure did. That's true too, little PG. Yeah. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to ask law enforcement about him. I'm calling law enforcement tomorrow anyway. I was calling, to talk about a different topic, something else I wanted to talk with them about. But when I call them, I'm going to ask about this Tim Mullins guy. I'm going to tell him that, I think that needs to be looked into, because, he needs to be questioned up why he's fighting so hard to get these boys back. It's not Dawn and Candace doing all of this, it's him. And what does he have to gain by it? What does he have to gain by it? And when exactly did he come into the picture with the Wells? Was it before Summer ever went missing? Because I think it is. That's my opinion. I think it's way before. Because he knew his way around too well. He knew his way around and felt too comfortable up on the hill when supposedly he was first showing up. I knew it. I felt he'd been there before. Because he was way too comfortable out there. You know what I'm saying? He didn't look like somebody intruding. When someone first comes on your property, they got that intruder look, right? He didn't have it. He looked way comfortable petting the dogs, walking around, just really like he was at home. Like he was at home and he's been there before. And he wasn't intimidated by them dogs at all. At all. Don and Candace was hiding up. First, they were in the house when they spotted him. Then they went down to the basement and they was watching him. They was keeping an eye on him and watching him. And Don even told Candace, "Dumbass, don't be looking, your head like that, so she didn't get seen." But he was out there, and I'm telling you, he was way too comfortable and not afraid of the dogs. I found that stuff really suspicious, you know, because I know that, like when Chris and his wife showed up there, right? Chris was like intimidated, he looked and he act like, it's his first time, like an intruder would. And, and that dude did not act like that. He did not act like, and Tim was invited. Supposedly this guy wasn't even invited. He was intruding, he was an intruder upon their land. And, according to Don and Candace, but I'm going to tell you now, I often felt he wasn't. And I always, always suspected that he'd been there before, the way he was petting the dogs, the way he wasn't scared to be walking around, the way he was making himself all at home and comfortable. And, yeah, I'm telling you, I bet this dude was visiting up Ben Hill Road way before Summer came up missing. Just saying. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. Yeah, something ain't right here. And he's been fighting for those boys since the day they left. And something ain't right about that as well. I'm telling you, law enforcement really needs to be, be trying to question up those boys more on the topics of what the hell was going down up there on that property. They really need to, let them kids know they're safe now. They're safe. They won't ever be going back. And they really need to, come forth with the truth about what really occurred up there on that hill. Now, that littlest boy might not, remember a lot, but those other two, they've got some information. And for their sister's sake, they need to be letting it out. That's my opinion. And obviously, them boys know something because they're really fighting like hell to get that oldest one back on that hill. And I don't think it's because they care so much and want him back. That's, I think they're wanting him back to shut him up. They ain't wanting, they ain't wanting him to feel that he ain't, that they're not wanting this boy to, grab onto his own life and understand he don't need that hill ever again. They're afraid. They're afraid if this child grabs onto his own life and understands that he don't ever need that life on Ben Hill again, that he might come forth, he might start talking, and he may tell some truth about what happened and, why his sister came up missing. And I think they're scared of it. I think they're absolutely scared. And I'm pretty sure the oldest one probably knows a hell of a lot because that's the one Don was on all the time. That's mainly the reason they lost. That's why they lost visitations, because Don was, was trying to get a hold of that oldest boy all the time and was, and was off saying stuff to him. And then the boy wouldn't act right. Then he wouldn't act right after that. And they needed, they had to break all communications with this boy and Don and Candace because, the boy would get really violent after this would happen. Like it was really disturbing him whatever they were saying to him was totally disturbing him and causing him, you know, to not be able to fit in and live a normal life. So basically it was like they were traumatizing this kid with whatever, you know, Don was doing. That's my opinion. But he did get off with this kid all the time. And I bet that child could tell. I bet you if that oldest boy wanted to, he could really give you an insight on what was going on up there. He could tell you everything. No doubt in my mind, he could tell you it all. And they're afraid. They're afraid. They're scared of that kid and what he knows. That's my opinion. I'll keep it. But you know what? I'm going to have to pick up tomorrow night where we left off tonight. We're going to have to pick up tomorrow night where we left off tonight. And because I've kept you guys in here. I've kept you in here long enough. And a lot of us got to get up and we got to work tomorrow, right? We ain't as lucky as Dawn and Candace, and you know, can just work when we want to and lay around the rest of the time. We have to, you know, some of us have to get up and work study. But I wanted to share something with you guys tonight. I wanted to share this picture of Rose Bly. I wanted to talk a little bit about Rose's case as well tonight. You know, I'm sorry that, you know, that the time escaped us so quickly, but I did want to talk about, you know, Rose Bly's case as well, and some things, you know, that I've took note in her case that seems suspicious as well. But a picture here that we put together for Rose and Summer. And hopefully, you know, hopefully they know how much they're loved from above, right? Hopefully they know how much we care down here and how hard we're working, you know, to get these cases solved. No one should ever be done like this. No one. Nobody has the right to destroy other human beings. You don't have that right. And the only reason they do is because they feel they can. When evil people destroy other humans, it's out of self-gain, jealousy, envy, and just pure fucking hatred. And evil people, for some reason, think they have the rights to destroy other people's lives. It's time that, you know, it's time that God's children start standing up and let them know, no, you don't. And we're not going to tolerate it anymore. Jesus was meek, not weak. Right? He was meek, not weak. We need to remember that. Yeah, God bless him. God bless him. Absolutely, God bless him. And I'm going to tell you, I got another picture for y'all too. I got another picture for you. Right there. Oh, me and Andy are such buddies now. Yeah. We're just two people in one, baby. Here's my new friend. All right. There you go. There you go. Right. That little demon right there is ready to serve up and work for the devil. All right. There he is. What did you say, Andy? Oh yeah, I can go do that for you. Right? I I can go pick on that pagey for you. Of course I can. Right? Look at that. Look at that. That dude, no matter what you do, he still looks like he crawled out from underneath a rock, right? He still looks like he crawled out from underneath a rock. We can't change that. Yeah, I thought you guys would enjoy that. You know, sometimes you need something. You need something to just lighten the day from all of this. Absolutely. So here it is, right there. Take a look at it. Andy looks so happy. He looks so happy with his little partner, don't he? All dressed up. They're all dressed up. No place to go. Right? They're both dressed up. No place to go. That's it, right there. All right, you guys. Please, as I ask every night before we leave out of here, please keep those prayers going up for Summer Moon Utah Wells. Keep the prayers going up, you guys. The only one's going to solve this case is God himself. That's it. I mean, I have no faith in anyone else. I have no faith in no humans down here to solve this baby's case. We've got to put all faith in God now, because he's the only one. God is the only one able to do this one. And we've got to know it, and we've got to start praying. And I really mean praying for him to get it solved. So please keep those prayers going up for this little girl. And keep them going up for Sebastian Rogers, Michael Vaughn, Lily and Jack. Let's keep the prayers going up for all of these missing kids. It's very important. It's very important to pray. Prayer is the best gift you can give anyone. That's the best gift. And you know what? It don't cost a dime. All it is put your hands together, bow your head, and say, Our Father, we come to you humbly and gratefully, and we ask that you help in finding all of these children and returning them back, so we can, if they're no longer with us, we can properly put them away and know where they are. And if they are with us, Lord, let us find them wherever they are, so they can live a normal, decent life outside of horror and fear. But Lord, we know only you can solve these cases. And we come to you and we pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, that you answer our prayers. Because these children need found. And Lord, so many of us need enclosure. And we thank you for everything in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Send those prayers up. Send them up. And send them up for one another. Tell God, I don't know what all of these people need, Lord, but I know you do. I know you do. You know everything. And I know you can fix anything. All glory to you, Father. Please help us all down here. Answer our prayers and always be with us in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. It's not that hard. Not that hard to pray for folks. I just prayed for all of you. I prayed for all these kids. quick, you guys, that quick. And I'm going to tell you, God sees our hearts. He sees our hearts. And if we're always praying just for ourselves, well, where's our work at? Where's the work? Where's the work? Faith without works, is nothing. You're working when you're praying for everybody else. You're working because you care. And that then you have works and faith, which moves mountains. Keep the prayers going up, you guys. God bless. Much love. Good night.